It's Friday night, so that must mean one thing and one thing only. It's time for the haters on point and on time SmackDown review. Now, with that being said, you all know how we do it here. Segment by segment, all right? So let's get to it. I mean, the show, in my opinion, was not anything special, but I see why some people would enjoy it. It was your typical SmackDown, but some of the things made sense. Overall, though, the show is plagued with the same problems as usual. No follow through, no follow up, no stars, no explanation for anything. You know, the usual problems that we get in the Lee fitting Triple H era. So, the show starts out with MFDs coming out, and Solo says he's here, right? Now, all of the Samoans have a variation of saying the same fucking thing, you know? Solo Sikoa said, we're in the house, or like, we're in your city tonight. Jey Uso says, Jey Uso is now in your city, right? And then Roman Reigns says, acknowledge me, which basically is the same thing as saying, sup cucks, I'm here, you know what I mean? So, they have no creativity whatsoever. This group is a group of losers, except for Tala Tonga, who we haven't seen enough of. Everybody else is a complete degenerate, you know what I mean? You have like fucking Tonga Loa, you know, Tama Tonga presumably is going to come back at some point, and JC Mateo. These guys are just like complete jobbers, you know what I mean? There's nothing good about them. They have no redeeming qualities, and none of these guys, except for Tala Tonga, are anywhere close to 6 feet or higher. It's a bunch of short dudes, you know what I mean? Maybe Tonga Loa, but as we've already established in the past, this guy sucks ass. Then, Solo Sikoa says that the US champ runs SmackDown, basically, right? That's what he wants to tell us, that the MFDs run SmackDown. He must have forgot that he's the US champion, meaning that he is a designated mid-carder. He is not someone that runs anything. But nowadays, the US title and the Intercontinental title are treated like TV titles because the world titles never really make an appearance on the main shows of Raw and SmackDown. Like, maybe Cookie Rhodes will come out and cut a promo, and maybe Seth Rollins will come out and say, I'm the future, man, you know? Maybe that'll happen, but they're seldom gonna wrestle. So, like, these are the guys that, you know, are, like, in some ways, can't believe I'm saying this, the top champions of the SmackDown TV show. Not the brand, but of the TV show. So anyways, Sami Zayn comes out and says that if he had beaten Rusev, which, by the way, he did via disqualification, he might be fighting for the world title. Like, in what world do these abject jobbers live in? Beating Rusev gets you a title shot? Like, you haven't won a match in like a year, but beating Rusev, who Sheamus beat like twice, gets you a title shot? Then why doesn't Sheamus have a title shot, you dumb bitch? So anyways, that makes absolutely no sense. But basically, Sami then explains that he's now on SmackDown inexplicably. He also explains that basically, like, Solo, he thanks Solo, and he thanks him because Solo helped Sami refocus on other things. Effectively, what he's saying without saying it is, Solo made Sami realize that he's not world championship material, that he is, at best, mid-card material. So now he wants the US title because he's never held that. Imagine that. Imagine last week saying, I want to be a world champion, and then deciding, nah, I think I'll just settle for the US title, you know? A complete waste of time, a dumbass segment. And at this point, they start fighting, and the MFDs come and lay a beating on his bitch ass. Jimmy comes out, and then so does Fatu. The story is, Jimmy's here to help Sami, and Fatu is here to help Jimmy, right? Fatu doesn't care about Sami for obvious reasons. But now, Jimmy and Sami just feel like the lackeys of Fatu. You know, there was a part where they all like kind of triple team Tala Tonga, and then Sami Zayn and Jey Uso do like tope suicidas, you know? And it's like, or, you know, the dives that they do, right? And that's like something a lackey would do while the main guy is still in the ring, right? So that's how it comes off, and it is what it is, and as a result, all this comes out and makes a 6-man match for the main event. It's going to be the team of faces, Jimmy, Fatu, and Sami Zayn, against 3 of the 4 members of the MFTs. After this, we get a segment with Chelsea and her jobber faction. It'll be Piper versus Alexa, right? How many fucking Scottish people do we need in this damn company? You know what I mean? Like, I talk a lot about Samoans, but we got Drew, we got Piper Niven, and we got Alba Fire. They're both Scottish. Just put them with Drew. have everyone wear kilts, and that could be something more entertaining than this garbage, right? Well, I mean, I guess Chelsea Green is like okay, but she's a jobber. You know what I mean? Like, for better or for worse, she's a jobber. Now, some people take umbrage with the way the hater uses the word jobber, which I honestly understand because I use it to denote a wrestler that sucks balls, you know? But sometimes I also use it in the correct way, like in the case of Chelsea Green. When I say jobber, a lot of times I'm saying the wrestler sucks. But sometimes, like in this case, like they're jobbers because they're just designated as jobbers, right? Like Karrion Kross, for example, you know, he was designated as a jobber. Now, I don't particularly like Karrion Kross, but my issue with him has always been his presentation, just like with Chelsea Green, right? Like Karrion Kross, if booked correctly, has more attributes than like the vast majority of the roster. The hater has always been clear about that. Like, I don't doubt that Karrion Kross should be higher up on the card than Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens. No one's ever doubted that. But the problem is, he ain't, motherfucks. As a matter of fact, he's been released. So, after this, the match starts. It's Piper versus Alexa. And I wonder if Piper's going to get her first win in 5 years, or if she's going to lose the match like everyone expects her to. That's exactly what happens as Alexa Bliss rolls her fat ass up for 3. They all brawl and the heels win by virtue of the fact that they have 3 people. So this is continuing on and on. Now, nothing wrong with that. Like, I think that a team like Alba Fire and Piper Niven, I believe that they should be tag team champions. Like, they're a more interesting tag team than most of the female tag teams that we have because they actually are part of a faction. They have like a pseudo gimmick, you know? Like, it is something. I mean, like, their gimmick is like an offshoot of Chelsea Green being like, you know, the arrogant girl, right? This still falls within my 2 gimmick paradigm from last video. But nevertheless, I think to be better off than like the We Are Friends and We're Not Friends, like a fucking Judd Apatow movie. But anyways, after this, we see Tiffy arguing with Jade, who hasn't had a match since, and then Nia comes by. Nia says that Tiffy's title run has been a fluke, but that's silly because Tiffany beat her, she beat Charlotte, she beat Jade. Tiffany is having, I mean, it's a horrible and boring title run, but in kayfabe, she's having a very successful title run. She's winning a lot of matches, she's not cheating, and all of a sudden, she's considered to be this big player. You know what I mean? She was Nia's lackey, and now she's not anymore, right? So, and at this point, it's like, who's going to take the title from Tiffany Stratton? If they do, I think the next big pay-per-view that we got really is WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Because Survivor Series is not really like a singles match situation. You know, I could see Tiffany being in like a War Games match or something, you know? So, like, she honestly might hold it until WrestleMania for all we know. So we'll see. I mean, there are things that are there, but the Money in the Bank is out of the way. So everybody knows that in WWE, title changes happen basically either at SummerSlam, at WrestleMania, or through Money in the Bank. Like, it almost never happens otherwise for the main titles. Anyways, this was not a good segment. Jade Cargill just looks like a jobber. I mean, she looks great, but she feels like a jobber is probably a better way to say it, right? She's like, I take cues from no one. And it's like, you don't have the standing to talk with this much confidence, right? That's like one of the things I hate about wrestling is this inconsistency in characters, right? Like, I'll use Karrion Kross as an example. You know, I've said this before, but Karrion Kross, he had the whole TikTok, like, I'm coming for you, right? But it's like, everyone you come for whoops your ass. So, like, the next guy, like, when he came after Keith Lee was like, I don't give a fuck. And he stomped and broke the hourglass, you know? Because he was like, well, great, Karrion Kross, the jobber, is coming for me. I'll beat his ass like everyone else does, you know? It's nothing really crazy. Same thing with a lot of the people in this segment, right? Jade Cargill, the best example. Jade Cargill is a jobber now, you know? She's a loser. She lost to Tiffany Stratton. She's done nothing of value in her entire, like, now almost 2 or 3 year run. Who the fuck knows, right? She had, like, a feud with Naomi, and even though she won the feud, Naomi came out on top. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. Remember that Jericho-Shawn Michaels feud? Where eventually, like, Shawn Michaels is able to, like, defeat Jericho in the ladder match, but then later that night, Jericho becomes the world champion. You know, so it's like, Michaels won the feud, but Jericho came out on top after the feud resolved. You know? And beyond that, all she's done is win the Queen of the Ring and then lose the thing that the Queen of the Ring gives you. The Queen of the Ring at this point and the King of the Ring are effectively like a second version, motherfucks, of the Money in the Bank. You win it and you get a title shot. And I guess that's the new way to, like, kind of win it at SummerSlam, right? Because that gives you, it's a pretty big deal because you get to be in a title match at SummerSlam, which, as I've already established, is one of the very few opportunities you have to actually achieve a title change. So anyways, nothing comes of this. After this, we got Miz and Melo. They come out, and then Tessitore plugs Triple A, right? The Triple A thing is like tomorrow or some shit on YouTube. And then he says one of the main matches is the Rihanna de Rihanna's match, right? Okay, I didn't know that fucking Riri. I didn't know that Rihanna was gonna be on WWE. It's Reina, hijo de puta. You know what I'm saying? It's not Rihanna, it's Reina. This is not a hard thing to like learn. You know, I know I'm nitpicking, but I gotta, because this guy's new, motherfucks. So anyways, after this, the match starts. Miz basically carries these jobbers, and I should also note that Fraxium comes out with this shitty generic rap music, which is par for the course. Every time they want to make a tag team feel cool, they give them shitty like D-level rap music, and it was like, yeah, it's Fraxium, we're like hands-on, it's Fraxium, or some other garbage like that. So anyways, that happens. The match is pretty decent. The Miz does some cool shit. There's a spot where he pretty much steps on someone that's getting pinned, right? Or on the guy that's pinning the person that's getting pinned. So the guy that's pinning Carmelo, and does like a jumping tornado DDT on the fourth guy in the match, right? The match basically ends by Miz clearing the ring. Carmelo then counters like an attempt by Nathan Frazier to do like a suplex. He counters it. I saw it coming, but it was still cool. He counters it into that vertical suplex cutter thing that Carmelo does, but now it's from the top rope. Carmelo then goes to the top rope, the other top rope, to hit the nothing but net. Miz tags him in, gets in, skull-crushing finale. 1, 2, 3, Fraxium or jobbers. You know what I mean? Now, I understand what they were going for here, right? They were going for the Miz is stealing his thunder. That's pretty clear. But just logically speaking, right? If it's a tag match, that means that the fourth guy can always break up the pin. So you don't have time to like set up your top rope move. The more logical thing would be to tag in the guy whose move is like a quick move, like the skull-crushing finale. So I don't think it really hit that note very well, but the point was made, and the idea is they're just a tag team that doesn't get along. The Miz is manipulating Carmelo, and Carmelo's going along with it until obviously he won't go along with it anymore. This is really stupid because it shows an inconsistency in the character. Carmelo did the exact same thing to Trick Williams, so he should be very aware when this is happening to him. But because he's retarded, he's not aware, motherfucks. After this, we see a segment. Kiana James is trying to court Tiffy into her, like, faction. She's basically like a Teddy Long, you know? And her client, her only client is Julia. And she says, look, Tiffy, like, just because Julia is the U.S. champion, doesn't mean she won't come and take your title, too. Then Michin appears and says, I'm going to get Julia next. And then Kiana says, yeah, sure, whatever, kid. You know, and that's basically it, motherfucks. Then, the one segment we were all waiting for, Drew McIntyre, right? My next video after this, which I'm going to make probably immediately after, is going to be on Drew McIntyre. Because I have a lot to say about this guy, you know? And you'll be surprised that some of it is good, motherfucks. But Drew comes out, and Wade tells us that Cody's basically dead. But, like, not only is Cody basically dead, but everybody else on the roster is in danger. When this version of Drew McIntyre comes out, Wade did it again. He's trying to gaslight us into somehow believing, against all the evidence before us, that this Drew McIntyre is different than the other 5 Drew McIntyres that Wade Barrett has told us about that have all been abject jobbers, right? Drew McIntyre hasn't had a meaningful win since last WrestleMania. Not the one against Damien Priest, the one before that. He's done fuck all since 2 WrestleManias ago, you know? And Drew's in his prime. And which means that you got a few good years left in him, you know what I mean? I mean, you might have like 10 good years left in him, but not if he's going to be an abject jobber, right? And this is kind of one of the stories of this episode of SmackDown. Like, you have The Miz, who is a former 2-time WWE champion and who won his match at WrestleMania 25 in the main event. Like, that's a very rare category of wrestlers. There's like 30 wrestlers at most that have main evented and won, right? Because there's only been 41 main events, you know, if we don't count night 1, which we obviously don't. And obviously there's a lot of repetition. There's been a lot of Triple H main events, a lot of Hogan main events, a lot of HBK main events, a lot of Cena main events, right? So, you know, it's actually quite the honor to win the main event match at WrestleMania. Like, I don't think Randy Orton, for example, has ever won the main event of a WrestleMania match. I don't think Edge has ever won the main event of a WrestleMania match. You know what I mean? Like, very few people achieve this. It's a massive honor, and The Miz is one of the people that did. So I know that it was a screwy match, and it wasn't really about The Miz, but the facts are the facts. So The Miz having problems beating Nathan Frazier and Axiom and teaming up with another jobber in Carmelo Hayes is absurd. Likewise, Drew McIntyre is one of those people that has main evented WrestleMania and won in the main event. So him being out there and for 2 years losing to the likes of fucking Damian Priest, who is not a terrible wrestler, but come on. And him going out there and teaming with like, not Jelly Roll, but with Logan Paul being the second man on that team is just not a good look. So anyways, Drew basically says that like he also will be forgotten. And he says he earned the title shot. Or he earned the title even, right? It's like, how did you earn it? You've lost every match for 2 years. You haven't earned fuck all. Like, should Drew McIntyre be the champion? The hater's going to say probably yes. But not in kayfabe. In kayfabe, he's lost every match. He explains that Cody needs the title and Drew just wants the title. He wants the money. He correctly says that Cody is a complete nobody without the title. That's another fact right there. And then he hits the ultimate fact when he correctly points out that after the match ended last week, Cody attacked him first. This was something that was a detail that didn't really matter because basically the match ends in a DQ, right? And then Drew McIntyre is out there. The match is over, right? And Cody slams his head against the table. And Drew McIntyre says he was going to put me through the table. You know, he was going to put me arse through the table. So basically he says, I decided to whoop his ass in defense. This is a valid argument. Like, what does Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett expect? They expect the match to end, Cody to beat on Drew, and Drew, in kayfabe, of course, to just take it and just be put to the table so that he can be like, wow, Cody is like the greatest champion of all time while Drew gets jobbed out again. No, Drew McIntyre says he attacked me, bro. Like, the match ended, he attacked me, so I had to whoop his ass. So I don't feel bad at all. And he says, get well soon, Cody, and leaves. This match is not going to happen, it seems like, at Clash in Paris. I think it should, because it's not like a serious match. Like, Drew McIntyre is not going to win the title. So it should just happen as soon as possible to get it over with. But, of course, they're going to drag it out like assholes. So, anyways, after this, we get a meaningless interaction between the Street Profits and the MFTs, right? The MFTs might be interested in the tag titles. They say, who cares about the tag titles? And then Rowan is in the back wearing his rabbit mask like a cuck, yep. After this, it's time for DIY versus the Street Profits. The match is obviously good. These guys have good chemistry. They put on good matches. But the problem is, it goes on for too long, and obviously the Street Profits win. Like, there's a clear hierarchy within the tag team division. At the very top are the Street Profits at this point, right? Like, in terms of the actual tag team, right? Because we also have, I mean, there's also a lot of jobbers here and there, like the Wyatt Six are technically on top, but nobody really cares about them. You know, they're just like holding the titles, doing nothing with it. You know, so fine. If you want to say that they're on top, then Street Profits are second. And then you got a few other ones down there that are pretty much like on the same level. But even within that scenario, there is a hierarchy. So for example, like DIY is probably above Fraxium. Like if Fraxium and DIY wrestle next week, like they're probably going to lose. Above them is probably like Andrade and Phoenix. You know what I mean? And above all of these people is going to be Miz and Melo soon enough, at least in my opinion, cucks. So, you know, the match happens. There's a lot of false finishes. There's a lot of interference from BFAP and Candice LeRae, but ultimately the Street Profits win, as anyone would have obviously suggested and expected. After this, we get a dumbass Motor City Machine Guns versus Miz and Melo match that's made for next week. Chris Sabin, I forgot his name for a second, Chris Sabin says to Melo, are you him or are you his? Which I thought was pretty clever because that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like he's Miz's boy. You know what I mean? Miz's young boy. So that must not feel good for Melo, especially considering that his character is like the opposite of that, you know? Like, Melo as a character, if he has any character, it's the arrogant guy character. And the arrogant guy character just doesn't make a good lackey. All the lackeys are the angry guy character. You know what I mean? That's just how it works, motherfuckers. So it makes no sense, but that makes it interesting. Like for example, I already know that Miz and Melo are going to win this match. You know? Like, Motor City Machine Guns are now that jobber tag team. They're right there with Fraxium. Like, they'd probably beat Fraxium, but that's about it. Like, there's no hierarchy beyond, like, Street Profits are on top, and then there's, like, the Andrade and Phoenix and the Miz and Melo, like, the makeshift tag teams that are going to get a push anyway. So, that happens. Nobody cares at all, right? Then we get an R-Truth segment. R-Truth is basically retarded, Byron Saxton asks him how he feels about Cena coming back. Truth is happy. Then Aleister Black comes out and says, "Are you retarded or not?" And R-Truth says, "I'm not retarded. You don't tell me who I am." Like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? This shit's done. It's been like months at this point. Nobody cares anymore. And after this, it's time for the final match. But there's like 10 minutes left in the show, and we're already on commercial again. So like once everyone comes out and the match actually gets started, there's like 5-6 minutes left, you know? And the match is a decent match. It's a 6-man tag match. You don't expect much of it. And you kind of already know how it's going to end, right? In order to establish Sami Zayn as the guy that is going to be the next challenger for Solo Sikoa, Sami Zayn must pin Solo Sikoa, right? It's just common sense. I thought they were going to go low and just do the same finish as last week, where Sami Zayn just rolls him up. You know, they made a big deal last week about how Solo Sikoa hasn't been pinned in like a year, and now he got pinned twice by Sami Zayn, which would be a justification to give Sami Zayn his title shot that he justifiably deserves, right? According to the logic of wrestling, you know? He beat him twice. That makes sense. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, but fine, it is what it is. So, another way that you would know that the Sami Zayn team is going to win is that Tala Tonga was not wrestling in this match. You know, we had the honor of seeing legendary wrestlers Camacho and JC Mateo grace the main event, which if you told me in 1999 that one day on a random SmackDown, the main event would involve a guy who was previously known as Camacho and a fat guy, he's like a smaller, less strong and athletic version of Rhino. He looks just like Rhino, except he's like Hawaiian or whatever. If you told me that these assholes would be in the main event, I would just laugh in your face, you know? But here we are. Because Tala Tonga is not in the match and he's someone that they're obviously protecting, he's like the next Jacob Fatu. He's going to amount to nothing either, realistically. He's going to be the next Omos, you know? But whatever. For now, he's supposed to be a big deal. Because he wasn't on the match, then like, you know that the MFDs are taking the L, right? That's exactly what happens. Basically, in the end of the match, Sami Zayn is left in the ring with Solo Sikoa. Sami's a little distracted. Solo goes after him, goes for the spike. Sami kicks his arm away, does the exploder, and then hits the haluva kick, probably for the first time ever after the exploder. I feel like he always misses that. But anyways, he hits it and he pins him 1, 2, 3. Afterwards, Jacob Fatu, who in a previous segment that I forgot to talk about, was showing some reluctance towards trusting Sami Zayn. Now he accepts Sami Zayn and everyone's happy. Maybe afterwards, they go and blow each other while they do the haka. But the problem with this is, it should be the other way around. Like Sami Zayn, I understand that Fatu is like the bigger star because that's how they're positioning him. But from a logical perspective, Sami Zayn should be telling Jimmy Uso, yo, can we trust him? Because like 7 months ago or whatever, 8 months ago in November, they were in the War Games match and fucking Fatu was on the other side. He was a heel. He was siding with Solo. Now, I understand there's no reason to think that he would still be siding with Solo given everything that's happened. But nevertheless, the reluctance should be on the other side. It shouldn't be like fucking, Jacob Fatu being like, do I trust Sami Zayn? Like Sami Zayn, I mean, I know he's been an asshole in the past, but he's been consistent for like a year and a half in being against Solo Sikoa. Like he's been enemies with Solo for longer than Fatu has. Like, he was enemies with Solo Sikoa when Fatu was retarded and would say, I love you, Solo, right? Like, that's how it was. So they hug, and the fans like that, so it is what it is. So overall, this SmackDown wasn't, like, completely, like, a gargantuan waste of time, but it wasn't entertaining either. I gotta call it like I see it, motherfucks. So this SmackDown, I give it a 3 out of 10, maybe. It wasn't good. Like, and by the way, when the hater says 3 out of 10, like, I'm not one of those people that follows the scale correctly. I scale the scale, motherfucks. So like for me, like 5 out of 10 is not average. 5 out of 10 is an E. It's a failing grade. For me, like an average show, like an acceptable show is like a 7, 7.5. An 8 is also like an acceptable show with something good that happened. A 9 is a good show and a 10 is a great show, right? And then like, if it's like the best episode of SmackDown ever, it's going to get like more than 10. I'm going to be like, this was like the best SmackDown ever. It's going to get like a 12 out of 10 or some shit. Well, I'll go beyond the scale because that's how I roll. So when I say 3 out of 10, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying it's in the top 30%. It's a failing show. Like if they keep doing shows like this, they're going to be out of business. They need to pick it up. So with that being said, Cucks, Take care of yourselves and look forward to my Drew McIntyre video tomorrow, motherfucks. Forza Milan tomorrow. We play Bari. Let's get to it. It's not like a league game, so it's not as important. It's a cup game, though, so we got to win it, you know. New coach, some new players. Let's get to it, motherfucks.